Eastern Time. I recommend using headphones to hear the gentle mic brushing. Okay, let's go ahead and get right into tonight's case. It's another wild, crazy, tragic case. This is the case of the murder of Ryan Poston by Shayna Hubers. This occurred on October 12th, 2012, in Highland Heights, Kentucky. And that is a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio. So, let's start with Shayna. She was born in Kentucky on April 18th, 1991. She was known to be talented in music and drama. She was very academically gifted. She got a music scholarship to the University of Kentucky, and she graduated with honors in only 3 years. A high school friend of hers reported that she was known to be rather dramatic. You know, prone to crying when relationships didn't turn out her way. Now, let's talk about Ryan Poston. He was also born in Kentucky on December 30th, 1982. So he was about 9 years older than Shayna. Now he was the oldest child of 4. He had 3 younger sisters. And his parents had divorced, but they kept everything friendly, and his stepfather was like another, father to him, like just as close as a father, and all the extended family of siblings all acted as one big, happy family. And Ryan was known to be very smart, very kind, very caring. He became a lawyer and opened his own law firm in Cincinnati. He cared a lot about being professional, also about looking professional, so he took care of his appearance. His father said of him that his favorite book was the dictionary because he had such a thirst for knowledge. So anyway, in the spring of 2011, Shayna what she wanted. She felt so proud to have a boyfriend like him. He was a lawyer with his own firm. He was a bit older than her. Guess he was about 28 or 29 when they got together. But things didn't go too well because she was much more invested in the relationship. He was very career driven at this point and wasn't really, as focused on settling down. But she wanted all of his time, all of his attention. And she was very obsessive. And the relationship was just filled with arguments, drama, jealousy, all that kind of stuff. And you could see it in the multitude of texts that are available for your viewing. But from what I have seen, now I haven't seen everything, but from what I've seen, it really mostly seemed like she was dishing out like the negative texts and he was kind of just, giving more flat responses, like, not saying anything mean back, but not really saying anything good either, Like he was being very mature and she was being very dramatic. But I mean, I could be wrong, so like I said, I haven't seen all of them. But from what I saw. And when he told her that he wanted to break up, she would never have it, so they had a lot of on again, off again stuff. Like he would say, I want to break up, and she would cry, so he would feel bad, and he would stay with her. But I mean, it was clear that he didn't want to be there. How many times does your boyfriend have to tell you that he wants to break up before you say, okay, I'm not forcing myself on him. But she wasn't like that. She kept at it. She would show up at his condo and let herself in somehow, like breaking in. And then she would refuse to leave. Sometimes she would be waiting for him without her clothes for when he arrived. That sort of thing. One night, his father reported that Ryan came over the father's house and said, "Can I sleep here? Because Shayna won't leave my condo." Isn't that crazy? And the father said that night he heard like a gazillion text tones, like she kept texting him and texting him and texting him. And of course his father told him, you gotta be done with her. Like, just end it. Be nice, but be done. So, Ryan ultimately found another girl. It was the former Miss Ohio. And she was very beautiful. They hadn't been on a date yet, but they had spoken a bit. And there was a date planned for October 12th, 2012. So, fast forward to October 12th. Shayna is at Ryan's apartment. It's around 8 p.m. and she calls 911 and she's hysterical. She tells them she has just killed her boyfriend. She said that they were, fighting. He was being physically abusive. He was trying to throw her out of his condo. That part sounds true. she gave him one, by shooting him in the face. That was her idea of funny. By the way, it turns out she shot him a total of 6 times. When they left her alone in the room, she started doing pirouettes, like ballet twirls. She was humming, I think, Amazing Grace. And you won't believe this. I can't do it justice when whispering, but you get the point. She's like, I did it, and she snapped. Yup, I did it. Are you kidding? I mean, it's not an admission because she already did admit that she did it. But that doesn't sound very sad, does it? It doesn't sound very self-defense-ish to me. So, we've heard that kind of thing before. Strangely enough, this is like the 3rd story I've heard of a woman in the interview room doing that kind of stuff. It is so weird. Anyway, the police found that the crime scene did not look right for what she said. She said she was thrown around all over the place, but it wasn't even a mess, like nothing was disturbed. Even the place where the gun was just sitting very neatly on like the countertop with all the bullets lined up perfectly. And just, nothing matched what she said in there. She had said like she had been thrown against the couch and the coffee table and stuff, but everything just looked in place like it should be. And the police said she was like crying with no tears. They felt it was pretty fake. Anyway, so she had her trial. They tried to claim self-defense for her, but it didn't take too long for the jury to decide that she was guilty of murder and gave her 40 years. So, that was that. But it doesn't end there. Less than a year later, it was overturned because one of the jurors was like a convicted felon. And that's not a person who was allowed to be on a jury. I don't know how that happened. I really cannot understand it. But that's that. So they had she claims that a big issue for them had to do with their sex life. And he was not very thrilled with, let's just say, her level of response when they were together. He had all these different ideas, what they should try, different things that he would purchase, or procedures that he would suggest, and she had told him, according to her, that she was molested as a child, and he would throw that back in her face all the time, telling her that that had messed her up, and she needs to, get therapy for it, in a nasty sort of way. So that led her to a lot of mental anguish, okay? So anyway, that was like the big story. Meanwhile, the prosecution had found quite a few witnesses to bring in for this round. They brought in a dentist who was a good friend of Shayna. Shayna had texted this woman, and they have the texts, saying, Ryan wants to come to you for veneers. Can you mess them up so he's ugly? And then no woman would want him. And then she said, I'm going to the shooting range with Ryan, and I want to turn around and shoot him and kill him and pretend that, it was an accident. I mean, but that woman, at the time, I'm sure she didn't think it was serious, So that was one person. Then they had a clerk from the mall. Shayna had gone to the mall on the day of the murder, earlier in the day, and she was upset, and she was like chatting with the clerk, telling her that her boyfriend had found a new woman, and she was going to kill him. Yeah, that's what she said to the clerk at the mall on the day that she killed him. Like, wow. A cellmate of Shayna reported that Shayna told her that she had lied about Ryan being physically abusive. I mean, you can't always trust cellmates, because sometimes, or a lot of times, they are given something in exchange for their testimony. But you just add that to the other witnesses, The prosecution also presented a couple of texts that made her story sound, a bit untrue. There was a text from her to him saying, "Why won't you initiate sex with me? I don't want to force myself on you anymore." And he says something to her like, in a very nice way, maybe you should go ahead and, see some of those other men that you told me about. Which I can only imagine means in the past she had said, I don't have to stay with you. There's a lot of other men out there who want me, something like that. So she is saying that she is forcing him to have sex. Take that to mean what you want, but I'm just saying that doesn't sound like he's very aggressive or violent or forceful, but that she is actually. A psychologist was another witness, and he said that Shayna had borderline personality disorder, as the neighbor was talking about, that's from a different day entirely, okay? So anyway, this new jury found her guilty all over again, and this time gave her life in prison. It is a shame that they had to retry the case and waste a lot of money and a lot of time. But, I mean, luckily, at least it worked out. And, in fact, some would say worked out better because now she was getting life in prison instead of just 40 years. Interesting to note, while she was in prison, which she still is, but in 2018, she got married in prison to a transgender woman who was a prisoner in the men's prison that Shayna had met like through the fence or something in the yard. So yeah, they got married, but it didn't work out for whatever reason, and they got divorced in less than a year. Just a little piece of unimportant information for you. But anyway, what do you think? I will tell you what I think. I think this is one of the biggest wastes of life. Okay, I mean, this man, Ryan, sounds like such a wonderful person. I mean, I know they always make people sound, too good to be true a lot in these cases, when they talk about the victim. He was so loved, he was so smart, he was perfect, like, I know that can be blown out of proportion a little bit, but he really does sound like a great guy. I mean, from whatever I could understand from the evidence here, it really looks like he maintained himself in a very, mature, responsible way. I mean, it's unfortunate that, he fell for her at all, and that he didn't just do, a clean break earlier on. I mean, would that have helped anyway? Would she have just killed him earlier? I mean, I don't know. But, I mean, what is with her? It's another one of these. Like, how many times do we have to hear about, if I can't have him, then no one can? Why are there so many people who think that? I mean, in truth, these murder situations are rare, but that's all we talk about on this channel, so I'm just saying, why does this keep being a theme? And why can't these people realize they're not going to get away with it? They always think they're going to get away with it. I hope that if nothing else comes of true crime, the true crime genre, at least I hope that people out there learn that they can't get away with these things, so don't do it. I know I say that a lot. It's just such a shame. She took his life and her life, basically. I mean, although she's still out there living a life, granted it's a life in prison, maybe she's happy there, who knows.